It may be cold and wet outside here in San Antonio, but inside here in CalGuard Gym, it is nice and warm as we get ready for what promises to be an absolutely fantastic game between the undefeated 13-0 Trinity Tigers and the 9-5 Schreiner Mountaineers here in some SCAC competition. My name is Caleb Reed, joined up here in the booth by my color commentator Luke Terry. And Luke, this game is shaping up to be a great one so far before we've even tipped off.
Absolutely. Both of these teams having tremendous starts to the early part of their year in the early part of their conference slates. Both of these teams come in having played the same opponents and having featured the same results. 4-0 for both of these sides so far in SCAC play. They haven't played some of the other big guns in Colorado College and St. Thomas, but they've taken care of business so far, and it's kind of a change of pace in the SCAC. Usually there's some parity. Obviously, the University of Dallas has beaten St. Thomas this year, but both of these teams 4-0, looking to try and get back to the same game that they played last winter in CalGuard Gym, the SCAC championship, which Schreiner won. A little bit of a revenge opportunity for Trinity, and I'm certainly positive that's on their mind.
The last time these two teams met, a 67-69 victory for the Mountaineers here in CalGuard Gym in that SCAC championship game. And Trinity, of course, trying to avenge that once again here to open the 2024 calendar year as that ball is tipped away. Looks like it will remain with Trinity. Happy New Year to everybody watching, of course, on Tiger Network on the YouTube channel. Hopefully your 2023 was great and your start to this new year is good. As Trinity passing it around right now, takes a shot from outside, and it is good from outside. Tanner Brown opens up the scoring for the Tigers with a beautiful three, and that is something that Coach Hill, that Coach Smith and this Tiger team are going to want to focus on all throughout the day. This outside scoring that has been so important for them so far this year.
Absolutely. Coming off a couple of games as that one's up on the other side, and that one is drained. Trading shots in the early going. Dylan Mackey knocking that one down from the outside for the Mountaineers. But as I was saying, Trinity, as Jacob Harvey pulls up and is a little short, is coming off a couple of games played in Las Vegas at the D3 Hoops Holiday Classic. So Mackey gets to the rim again. He has 5 quick ones. And you talked about it. The outside shot has been huge for this team, and it was huge in Las Vegas, knocking down 17 in their last game. Jacob Harvey, who shot the ball a couple moments ago for the Tigers, setting a new program record for three-pointers made in the game. And some quick-paced action here in San Antonio, trying to keep track of it while trying to get everything out. Things knotted up now after Millhouse knocks that floater down from just inside 15 feet.
Whenever we got to talk to both coaches earlier throughout the week, they mentioned both of these teams love to score in transition. These are two of the best point-scoring offenses in NCAA Division III, as that shot outside is no good. A fight for the rebound. It is taken in, and now driving to the basket, loses the ball. Down low with it right now as that ball is knocked away, and it will go to the Trinity Tigers. But this is a game between two of the best offensive teams in NCAA Division III. Both of these teams within the top 50 in terms of point scoring. But one thing that could be the X factor here, Trinity's defense has been much better than the Mountaineers' defense so far this season.
Yeah, I was looking at the Massey ratings earlier today. Has an overview of every team. That's over 400 teams in the division, and you're right. Both of these teams top 50 on the offensive end, and almost showing you there why that's the case. Cervantes has his 3 rim out. It's going to stay with Schreiner, but you're exactly right. Trinity also top 50 on the defensive end of things. Schreiner outside of the top 200, so a huge discrepancy there. Trying to get things working on the offensive end early. Good lob play, something that was featured a lot in the matchups last year. They like to throw it up. It's a great opportunity on those baseline out of bounds. Just a little bit too strong on that attempt. But we'll see if Schreiner's offensive firepower is going to be enough to kind of take down and take this Trinity defense out of the equation.
One thing, whenever we were talking with the Schreiner coaching staff, is this is a shot from deep outside, and it is good. Tanner Brown gets another one as Trinity now extends its lead out 8-5 now over the Mountaineers. But one thing that we were talking about with this coaching staff, they mentioned just how physical this defense is, as you can see it right there, a great block there by Braxton Berry, one of the defensive leaders on this team, and they're going to call a backcourt violation there on that pass between Harvey and Green. And so Schreiner going to take over here again with, now that is going to be the first turnover by Trinity so far tonight.
Yeah, just a little bit too eager to get into the offense right there was Harvey. Christian Green trying to make the claim to the referee that he was establishing himself, but definitely caught it before his feet came down in the front court. And Cervantes takes advantage with a friendly roll right there, in and out, but back off that glass. So drawing the Mountaineers within two, and then, or within one, excuse me, and getting some defense, get out running the other way.
Jalen Ned throws it up, cannot get it to go, as that is the rebound there by Harvey. Pass outside, Brown from three again from the corner, and it is good. As we're gonna get a whistle down low here. This foul is going to go against Christian Green, but Tanner Brown has opened up the day 3 for 3, and all of them from deep. A fantastic start and exactly what they needed to start this game, which promises to be an offensive shootout. As a drive to the basket, it is up, and it is a good dunk. Camden Ross, the junior out of Cibolo, Texas. As now Schreiner finds themselves down by just 2 here. Still less than 5 minutes played so far. Shot is up from the corner, no good. And a fight for the rebound. They're gonna say it was out of bounds off of the hands of Barry. And now we are gonna get our first media timeout of the day. A fantastically fast-paced start.
Go really sticks out. This is exactly the start that Trinity needed, specifically from Tanner Brown. 3 for 3 from deep, because they're only up 2 despite that. Schreiner doing everything that they can to play the way they want to. They are for Trinity. You mentioned the turnover, a couple of them that Trinity has, just one for Schreiner. They're doing what they can right now to negate what Tanner Brown has done out of the gates. But something that we saw just a couple of seconds ago, Cervantes going really the length of the court, getting all the way into the paint before he was finally stopped, had to defer to a teammate, but in such a dangerous position, all he had to do was dish it off to Camden Ross, who was there ready to throw it down. And that's what Ross did a lot last year, and it's what he's done the majority of this year. He's gotten a lot of really easy looks. He's shooting almost 70% from the field on the year. That's what Trinity really needs to do. It's not so much about the point total in my mind in this one, but if you can make sure that he's not that efficient, then I think you give yourself a better chance. So what we saw in that play, try and stop Cervantes earlier, slow him down, don't let him run the length of the court, and then whenever Camden Ross does see the ball in his hands, make it really hard for him to get open looks at the rim.
This is a very, very star-studded Schreiner Mountaineers offense. They have 4 players averaging over 10 points per game, and Cervantes, the lone starter, has 9.8 points per game. So this is a very, very high-scoring Mountaineers offense. But one thing that was mentioned a lot was the defense of Schreiner has been a little bit weak so far this season, as that is going to be a travel call. I believe that's going to be called against Ross, who tried to go up there. But it's this Schreiner Schreiner defense that will really determine how this game goes, whether or not Trinity can run away with it or not. We know how well this Trinity defense can do, but the Schreiner defense kind of a little bit of a question mark coming into this game, as that ball is tipped, taken away, and running down the court with it, gonna go up and not gonna be able to get it to go. Barry could not hang on with it, so it will remain with the Mountaineers, but almost a fantastic layup play there to tie this one, and instead it remains a 2-point Trinity lead.
Yeah, and staying active on defense is going to be especially important for Schreiner because that's really what gets you into those transition opportunities that they want to see so desperately. That's exactly what happened right there.
Ross throws it up, cannot get it to go, and going to the ground. They're going to say that that is a travel against Braxton Berry. He is not happy on the ground after that one.
Yeah, slapped both of his hands down. I'm sure he felt there was some contact, which created his fall.
Shot is up, and it is good. Christian Rodriguez, the sophomore out of Somerset. And now we have a tie game here, 11-11 with 14:35 remaining in this first half. Barry up top with it right now. Passes it over to Green. Green, the leading scorer for this team, takes it, cannot get it to go there. Rebound by Mackey. Mackey pass over, and now backs out of it is Ned. Down over to Rodriguez, back over to Ned. Ned thought about the shot, does not take it. Instead, gonna drive, gonna pass it outside. Shot is up, and shot is good. Bo Cervantes gets the three to make this a 14-11 ball game. And now Trinity going to try and respond here with the ball.
It's a man defense from Schreiner right now, but things might look a little bit wonky because of the way Christian Rodriguez is playing Christian Green, sinking about 5 feet inside the three-point line. Green almost forced to shoot it from the outside to keep the defense honest on the last possession. He just wasn't able to knock it down. Certainly an interesting approach from this Schreiner team. Christian Green hasn't made a ton of threes on the year, but he also hasn't attempted all that many. I think he has really enjoyed getting to the basket just because he's been able to do so at will. Defenses have really pressed up on him on the outside, and he's used his length and that stride to just get past them and use his athleticism to finish at the rim. So Schreiner, the Mountaineers, trying to change that early.
So far this season, Green shooting 1 of 6 from deep, so hasn't made a lot, but hasn't attempted a lot either. He loves driving, as he does right there, loses the ball, manages to recover it. Balo thought about the shot, does not take it. Shot clock down to 3 before the ball is lost, and Schreiner going to take back over again. It's stripped away by Brown, and looks like are we going to get a jump?
I think they granted a timeout to Schreiner. There was a little bit of movement on the ground. It looked like it was Dylan Mackey who jumped on top of it. A couple of Tigers in pursuit trying to get hands on it, but he was able to rip it away. And I don't know if it was himself or one of his teammates, but Schreiner heads to the huddle and will retain possession.
And so just looking at the stats right now, Trinity has gone scoreless for the last almost 3 minutes, and during that 3 minutes, Schreiner has gone on a 7-0 run. Trinity was leading 11-7, now trailing 14-11, and hoping to get something going here. Of course, Dean to get the ball back off of this inbounds. Mackey thought about it, and now gonna push it down. Shot is up by Ross, and it is up and good. So Schreiner extends their lead now 16-11 over the Trinity Tigers here, still early on in this first half, but it's something that we were kind of expecting, maybe a little bit of a slow start to this game as both sides try and figure out what's going on as Green goes down.
Yeah, went down pretty hard. We've seen a couple of tough falls on both ends, some pretty physical play to start this one off, but realistically, the refs have let each of these sides play through that. I think it's been pretty consistent each way. And that's exactly what you want to see. I know it's been a little while since we've called a game on Tiger Network, the first of the new year here this afternoon. One of the last ones we saw was very heavily dictated by the referees as Ty Williams' shot rims out. Tanner Brown cleans it up, sneaks that one over the front iron to get Trinity back in the scoring column, draw this one back within 3.
That Trinity versus Washington and Lee game over the holiday break, a 77-70 final victory there for the Tigers, and one that was definitely influenced by the officials' decisions there, especially in that second half where there were quite a few star players who ended up getting into foul trouble there. Coach Smith and this Tiger team hoping to avoid that here today as these are two teams with a lot of depth that can afford to kind of throw bodies at the problem a little bit, but whenever you have players like these, you definitely want to avoid it, as that shot is no good. Rebound there by Dean Balo, one of the kind of surprise freshmen that we have seen so far this year. Of course, over the break, got to cover a few games and got to talk to Coach Smith, and one of the things that I remember during those interviews was Coach Smith essentially saying, we knew that these guys, like Christian Green, Dean Balo, are going to be good. We just didn't know that they would be this good this fast.
Yeah, and I think Balo is a guy that's gone a little bit under the radar because of the presence of Green. Green, Trinity's leading scorer, a team that's now ranked in the top 10 in the division. But Dean Balo, coming off the bench, has shot nearly 40% from deep. He's been a huge contributor from all of the efforts beyond the arc. And I think he himself is top 5 in the scoring column for Trinity. For a long time this year, he was their number 4 scorer, and he's provided an excellent punch off the bench, one that shouldn't go unnoticed.
It's been an absolutely fantastic season so far for the Tigers, of course, entering this game undefeated. But not only have the starters played well, but Coach Smith, of course, gave a lot of credit to the bench guys. They've been absolutely incredible when called upon. A very big next man up mentality for this team. And typically, whenever you're talking about the next man up mentality in sports like football, it typically revolves around players being injured. But so far, knocking on wood, this Trinity team has done very well to avoid losing players for extended amounts of time. And that has been something that Schreiner has kind of struggled with earlier on this year. Lost a couple of players to injury, and it's been a little bit rocky trying to get them all back. One of the things that the coaching staff mentioned was that it takes a little while to build consistency, and the offensive consistency has come first. It's taken a little while for this defensive unit to kind of mesh as well as the offense has, and that's a big reason why they've allowed as many points as they have so far this year.
Yeah, and I think Trinity has certainly benefited from that. You mentioned just continuity on both ends of the court. A huge help that everyone stayed healthy, as you mentioned, especially when you get so many new faces coming into a program, so many new guys stepping into a role, even if they stuck around from last year's squad. Trinity, a team that lost 9 players from their team a year ago. So they've had to replace a lot of guys. They've had great success in doing so. And on the other end, Schreiner is actually returning the majority of their high-minute players.
Shot is up from outside, no good. Rebound there, Tanner Brown. He has been everywhere so far today. Has not missed a shot so far during this game. 4 for 4, 3 of 3 from deep. It's Balo with it outside right now. Pass it down to Green. Green being defended very heavily. Shot is up and does not fall. Williams with the rebound. Balo from 3, and he gets it to go. Balo gets his first points of the day and ties this game up at 16 all. A huge shot there by the freshman that we were just talking about, who has been fantastic so far this year. You mentioned his high shooting percentage, and he gets another one there to make it just a little bit better on the year.
He had a very popular thing to say is, when is the best time to take a 3? Off of offensive rebounds, a second chance look right there. Found the open guy on the perimeter as Tanner Brown somehow acrobatically puts that one in. A ton of contact, and he finishes despite it.
What a fantastic play there by Tanner Brown. Went down to the ground after the contact on the shot. Thought that one was going to be a horrible miss. It went about halfway up the backboard, and it somehow drops in. As now, speaking of dropping in, this shot goes in, and it is a tie ball game. Balo with it down low right now. That last shot good there by Maldonado, as Balo getting pressured very heavily. Down low to Abdullah Roberts. Roberts spins, puts it up, and cannot get it to go. The fight for the rebound is taken in by Maldonado. Now Robertson with it. Only one starter on the court right now for the Mountaineers. That one starter being Ross, who you can see just at the free throw line now. A couple of substitutions coming on for the Tigers. Off come Green and Brown, and on come Harvey and the chaos creator on defense, Zach Fenn, who leads the team so far this season in steals. He has been a great defensive presence for this team as a sophomore coming in and getting a lot more minutes than he did last year for sure.
Absolutely, and it's a kind of common theme among these guys coming in off the bench. Very high energy, high effort on the defensive end. Not a ton of offensive creation, but they do a good job of making open shots. They're very good connective passers, but they really hang their hats on the other end of the court. As you see, Ty Williams, one of those names with a second chance opportunity, continues to hustle after his own miss. Finally, Schreiner coming the other way.
Ball down low, 2-on-1, puts it up and gets it to go. A great play there by Christian Caldwell, the senior, in his homecoming to San Antonio. Went to Central Catholic just a few minutes away, and a great play there as Harvey loses the ball, able to get it back. And one thing that was mentioned very heavily by Coach Smith, need to get the rebounds, both on offense and on defense. Shot does not fall. Fighting for the ball. They're going to say it's Schreiner ball there. Might have bounced off of the foot there of Fenn. But one thing that Coach Smith mentioned, have to get the rebounds here, have to limit second chance opportunities, and have to get second chance opportunities whenever this team is on offense, of course, but have to keep Schreiner from getting the ball back and have to get those defensive rebounds that are oh so critical to winning this game.
Right now, the rebounding efforts evened on each side. Schreiner came out really doing a good job pressuring offensively, getting out and running and creating second chances off of offensive rebounds, as Balo showing off some nice moves right there. Crossover into the spin move to open up a shot off the glass. But I've been really impressed by what Schreiner has done on the defensive end of the court. Very, very physical, and we'll have to see if that's a trend that can continue. Obviously, the refs can be a little bit more conservative with their calling the way they have been, but what we talked about previously is that game took a big shift, that Washington and Lee matchup for Trinity in the second half. The refs much more willing to call fouls. Things remain the way they have started here, then it plays in favor of Schreiner because they've been great on that end of the court.
Beautiful finish there from Braxton Berry. Ends up in a foul there. That one is going to go against Grant Jacobs, the junior out of New Braunfels, Texas. Just a few minutes up I-35. And so that is going to be only, I believe, the second or third foul. It is going to be the third foul here for the Trinity Tigers so far during this game. 3 fouls by both teams. And as you mentioned, Luke, so far this game, the refs have definitely kept the whistles in their pockets a little bit in the early going of this first half. As now we're going to get a media timeout as we have now hit under 8 minutes to go. And so far, this has been a very back-and-forth game, kind of similar to what we were expecting. Trinity only with a 2-point lead right now, but it is a 22-20 game. A little bit higher scoring compared to this point during earlier games that we have seen so far. And it's so far looking exactly like what we were talking about before the game.
Yeah, and in the last couple of minutes, as we were discussing, you know, the fouls, the physicality of the play, things picked up again. And I think that's what we're going to see as the afternoon continues, is just these bursts of both of these teams trying to throw kind of a flurry of punches, seeing who can take advantage and make some plays in transition. Braxton Berry getting out and running with a nice finish of his own, but because Trinity as a squad got out and ran the way they did right there, Schreiner was cognizant of it, got the ball back in quickly, all the way down the court with numbers of their own, even though it came off of a made basket. So I think we're going to be in store for a lot of that this afternoon. A lot of really, really good guard play on both sides, but a lot of really athletic big men, which again kind of leans and allows these squads to run the way they can, because those guys do a really good job of moving up and down the court.
Both of these teams love transition scoring. It has been kind of the offensive philosophy of both of these sides. They are very, very fast, very high-paced, high energy from both of these squads, which makes it so difficult to defend against them. And one of the reasons why both of these teams within the top 50 in Division III in terms of scoring. Schreiner within the top 35, actually sitting at 34. Trinity just at number 50. So it is a very, very high-scoring shootout that we might be having on our hands here towards the second half, as Barry is going to put it up, cannot get it to go. Rebound there by Rodriguez. And once again, trying to get it down low, tries to alley-oop it up, cannot get it to go. And now Ross is going to go to the line, going to shoot 2 here off of that foul.
We'll have to see who this one's going to go against. Grant Jacobs was defending, but instead it's going to be on Zach Finn, who came in to try and dig down from the backside. Camden Ross, talked about him a little bit earlier, has been incredibly efficient. Guy that they target with some lobs, something we saw on that last play.
Both shots are good there for Camden Ross, and he has been incredible from the line so far this season, shooting a bit under 78%. As Balo is going to drive down, put it up, cannot get it to go. Rebound there by the Mountaineers, and passes it over now, almost taken away, but Schreiner able to maintain possession as that ball is stolen out of the air. A fantastic interception by Grant Jacobs. And now Trinity once again with the ball. Fenn passes it outside. Ball is tipped, taken away. And they are going to call a double dribble there against number 12. That one is going to be Mateus Reichert-Bloom.
Yeah, and Reichert-Bloom was the player who came into the game, threw that lob to Camden Ross a couple plays ago. And again, we were talking about his high completion, or not completion, but field goal make percentage on the year. A big part is because of plays like that. Incredibly athletic, can go up and finish plays, but we're also seeing him a bit play in isolation down on the block as Jacobs gets to the basket, finishes through the contact, muscles that one up and in. But a big thing that's happening off the ball the last couple of offensive possessions for Trinity is Jacob Harvey trying to work to get open, but being absolutely denied by Bo Cervantes, who's doing a great job face guarding a Trinity individual who's coming off of a career performance. Again, Harvey setting the program record for three-pointers made in a game. He made 9. So certainly a focal point for this Mountaineers defense. And so far he's been kept in hold, and he hasn't made one from deep yet. He hasn't even had the opportunity to attempt one.
So far, the majority of the scoring for this Tiger team being led by Tanner Brown, the leading scorer for this Mountaineers offense so far this season, as that is a very physical stop there by Braxton Berry. Harvey driving to the line, puts it up, cannot get it to go. A lot of contact there on the shot. Harvey comes up a little bit slow as Schreiner takes the lead 26-24. A lot of physical play here in the last 15 or so seconds. Barry pass it down to Jacobs. Jacobs going to drive down, pass it back out to Barry. Barry going to put it up from a bit beyond the free throw line and get it to go. Tie game once again as we now have a timeout. And looking at Jacob Harvey, looks to be favoring that right shoulder a little bit. I think he went down pretty hard there, hoping that it isn't anything super serious, but a very, very physical chain of events in about the span of 20 seconds.
Yeah, what you said earlier, Caleb, is holding true. The referees choosing to swallow their whistles in the early going. It's just not something that changes really during the course of play, especially as quickly as we're moving here in the first half. Just about 3/4 of the way through the first 20 minutes. If we see a shift, it's usually coming out of the locker room to start the second half. So that's certainly something we'll have to be mindful of. But right now, both of these teams continuing to display despite that fact. Some guys just having to pick themselves up off the court. I think they both understand the magnitude of this game. Each of these squads certainly remembers that affair that they had in this gym last year. Alluded to it a couple of times. It was a game that Trinity had the opportunity to win at the buzzer, and it was Tanner Brown, who has started so strong here this evening, who put up that final last-second shot and missed just a little bit short for this Trinity side.
Harvey with the ball right now. He has stayed in. Shot is up from 3, and he gets it to go. He gets his first three of the evening. You mentioned he hasn't had an opportunity to shoot it from deep so far this evening. He finally gets one there, and he has gone 1 for 1 from outside and gets his first points of the day as well. 29-26 your score, Trinity leading over the Schreiner Mountaineers with under 5 minutes to go, under 4.5 minutes to go in this first half. Shot is up, cannot get it to go. Rebound there by Harvey, passes it over to Green, and Green not gonna drive like we've seen him do so often. Tanner Brown, shot is up from a deep three. He cannot miss from outside. That is 4 for 4 from outside. 6 for 6 on the day, and 16 points for Tanner Brown. He has been fantastic so far. Shot is up, cannot get it to go. Christian Green with the rebound. Trinity on an 8-0 run over the last minute and a half as Harvey outside corner puts it up and puts it in. Another huge three. Schreiner does not call a timeout. Trinity has gone on a massive 11-0 run, 4 of their last 4 shots.
And 3 of those makes from deep. Finally, Schreiner doing something to stop a little bit of the bleeding. That time, Christian Rodriguez finding himself wide open underneath the basket, and he finishes the playoff. But of those threes, 2 of them came in transition, and that's kind of an odd feature of this Trinity squad. They're so willing to pull up when they have numbers headed towards the offensive end. Tanner Brown did it, very quickly pulling trigger. And we saw Jacob Harvey do it very quickly, getting his first attempt of the game up towards the rim. He looked off some of his teammates, just finally wanted to get some opportunity for himself, and he cashed that one in from straight away. It'll be interesting to track the rest of the way. Both of these teams wanting to run, both of these teams shooting the 3 ball really well, but the way that Trinity can shoot it in transition, I don't know if Schreiner's going to have that capacity. Can they stop on a dime? Can they find the open man on the wing or in the corner? Do they get to their spots well enough to do so? I'm not sure, and we're going to find out over the next 23 minutes.
Mentioning, of course, this is a rematch between these 2 schools. The last game that the Tigers played last season, a 67-69 loss at the hands of these Mountaineers. And just looking at the box score, you can see a lot of the names that are no longer on this team. A.J. Clark, the leading scorer, who graduated last year. Also said goodbye to Ben Hanley as well, who was another starter. It got 7 points there, 23 minutes. It has been a very, very dramatic shift in terms of the players that we see on the court tonight and the players that we saw on the court back in February, almost now 11 months ago. So it has been a very, very drastic shift between these 2 schools, particularly this Trinity team that you can see on your screen right now. The Schreiner team, a little bit similar, of course. Dylan Mackey, Bo Cervantes, Camden Ross, all of them were starters, and all of them had some great points. Christian Rodriguez had 16 points as well during that game. So it is a very, very familiar foe that these Trinity Tigers are playing, but a lot of the big names on this Trinity team are players that Schreiner hasn't seen before.
Yeah, and just a little bit of a different philosophy, a little bit of different play style. Still wanting to get out and run, but I think Coach Smith, alluding to us earlier in the year, this Trinity team does just such a great job of continuing to move the ball. We've had some older players who are great running out in transition, as Mackey shows he's capable of it as well. But for that reason, the way they could finish on their own, the ball may be stuck on occasion in a way that it doesn't on this squad. They're always moving it, always looking for the open guy. And because of the kind of tick up, the increase in shooting from the outside, that movement continues. It gets swung around the perimeter, even in transition, the way we were talking about a couple minutes ago.
Whenever we were talking with Coach Smith, he mentioned how this is a very, very outside-focused team, and the game plan is always to play fast, get a lot of spacing, and one thing that he mentioned a lot, taking these shots from 3 really forced the defense to kind of focus on that outside defense, of course, because if you're making threes every other opportunity, it's going to start killing a defense. And so once the defense starts overcommitting to that three, that's whenever you start driving. That's whenever you start pushing the basket. And that has been something that Trinity has done amazingly so far this year, pushing on the gas, kind of leaning on the brake a little bit, kind of shifting the momentum. And it has been something that has allowed them to get this 13-0 record. As that is going to be a shooting foul, and Rodriguez is going to go to the line for 2.
And Rodriguez really forcing the issue when he's gotten touches on the inside, more so than his front court mate, Camden Ross. I think he's just putting his shoulder down, trying to go through the defenders. Right now being checked by a smaller Christian Green. Christian Rodriguez listed at 6'6", but a little bit bulkier down low and kind of a more traditional big man than his front court mate. Camden Ross has shown a little bit more touch, a ton of athleticism that we've talked about as Green blows all the way past the defense, finishing with the left hand on that side of the basket, just streaking down the court, showing off his length and getting to the basket really quickly.
Something that we have seen a lot so far this year. Christian Green using that speed, using that physicality. It's a big reason why he is this team's points leader. Shot from 3, no good. Rebound there and put back up and in. Fantastic play there by Jalen Ned, the junior out of New Orleans. Of course, New Orleans got to have a little bit of excitement last night as that ball is knocked out of bounds. New Orleans got to have a little bit of excitement last night with that Sugar Bowl. Kind of tough to watch that one at the end there as a Texas fan, but still a great game nonetheless that we got to see last night, and a great game that we're watching here so far tonight.
And Cervantes still just trying to check Harvey on the outside, doing a really good job of it, and really just forcing Trinity to eat up a lot of that shot clock. That one falls ultimately, but with just about 5 seconds left, Millhouse kind of forced to create the offense on his own, but doesn't hurt Trinity, as now there's less than a minute left in the half.
Play clock now at 15, or sorry, shot clock at 15. Ball outside now driving down. Millhouse in the defense, passes it up top to Ned. Almost tipped away by the Trinity defense. Shot is up from outside from the corner, and with 3 seconds to go, a fantastic play by Bradley Russell, the junior out of Denton, Texas. Shot clock was down to 3 seconds as that ball hit the rim. Green gonna drive, gonna put it up, and gonna put it in as Trinity extends their lead 43-35. Shot clock now off, so this could be the last possession of the half if Schreiner takes it. Instead, it's taken away by the Trinity defense. Brown ends up losing the ball, a strip there, and Russell with it now. Again, a physical play at half court and unable to get the shot off. So a very, very kind of physical, hard-hitting end to that first half. But Trinity leading 43-35 after the first half. Wow.
Yeah, just another flurry that we were talking about right at the conclusion of things. Neither of those teams wanting to play it very conservatively. Trinity, that make that came from Christian Green with probably 20 seconds left, was with the 3-second differential on the shot and game clock. So if they had timed it well, you know, you get the shot off with maybe 4 seconds on the game clock right as the shot clock is expiring, and Schreiner doesn't really have an opportunity to turn around and do anything. Instead, you go really early. Schreiner can come the other way, but Bo Cervantes trying to put some dribble moves on, get to the basket, turns the ball over. Just that back and forth that ensued. Some more bodies hitting the ground. It was a fun half, and I think we're going to see a lot of the same when we come out of the locker room.
It was a absolutely fantastic half. Just looking at the stats so far, of course, cannot talk about that first half without talking about Tanner Brown. What a fantastic start by him. Of course, all eyes were on Jacob Harvey after that fantastic Las Vegas tournament run. But holy cow, Tanner Brown has been fantastic so far during this first half. 4 for 4 from deep, 6 for 6 so far on the day, 16 points, and he's also made a little bit of a defensive impact as well, a steal, and of course has gotten a few rebounds as well on the defense. So it has been a great first half for Tanner Brown, who is hoping to continue that one going into the second. And so with about 13 and a half minutes to go before the end of halftime, we are going to take a quick break here on Tiger Network. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back here to cover a little bit more of what happened in that first half and get you ready for the second. So again, don't go anywhere here, or don't go anywhere, and we will be right back here on the Trinity Tiger Network. Welcome back, everybody, from halftime here on the Trinity Tiger Network. My name is Caleb Reed. Luke Terry will be joining me in just a couple of seconds here up in the commentary booth. But, wow, it has been a fantastic first half so far from both of these schools. Trinity leading 43-35 here as we get the second half underway. And, Luke, what have you seen out of these two teams during that first half, and what are you expecting here in the second?
Well, for Trinity, I thought it was really the shot making from the outside. And it's really just the timing of that aspect of this Trinity's offensive firepower. Huge moments is when those makes came. Felt like outside of that, very, very evenly played first half. Schreiner doing what they want, getting out and running, holding their own very well, and with that, an opportunity to cut this one back to just 5, but a great offensive shooting half from Trinity.
Schreiner getting an early start here as Ross gets the layup to go and will go to the line. He will sink the one and only free throw that he gets to make this a 43-38 ball game here. Trinity got the early lead in large part due to the offensive production of Tanner Brown, who has the ball right now. 6 for 6 shooting on the day, including 4 of those shots coming from deep, as that foul is going to go on Ross. The officials were kind of a little bit hesitant to blow the whistle during that first half, so getting a whistle or getting 2 whistles here early on in the second might indicate that we may have a little bit more of a foul-happy second half than we saw from the first, and it could get a few players in trouble because, of course, you know, after 20 minutes of basketball, you kind of get into a routine, and whenever the things that were working in the first half all of a sudden are not allowed in the second, you can kind of get into a bit of a routine and get yourself into foul trouble, and so that'll definitely be something that Trinity has to watch out for towards definitely the start of the second half, but also towards the end as players start to get into a little bit of trouble.
And physical play, the last 2 times down, or at least on the last 2 attempts from Braxton Berry, nothing was called on either of those. Schreiner able to cut this lead down even more, and Trinity gonna get tagged with a foul on this end of the court. A couple of opportunities for Schreiner there, who trails by 3 and has the opportunity to cut that lead to just 1. A big thing about the physicality of that first half and the foul calling from these referees, it wasn't the fact that there weren't as many fouls called as we anticipated in a way that would reflect the level of physicality. I just don't think there were many fouls called at all. There was a point where I looked up at the scoreboard, it was 3 fouls both ways. That was like 12, 13 minutes into the half. I just thought more fouls could have been called in general. And then you factor in how physical play was both ways. It seemed like it was really out of whack, frankly.
During that first half, you saw players going to the ground, players getting arms to the face, a lot of contact on shots and on blocks, as that one is a fantastic play there by Christian Green, but you saw a lot of contact. That, what a play, a fantastic dunk there. Camden Ross elevates there on a deep alley-oop and gets this gym alive. 44-45 is your score, and Schreiner has the ball, trying to take their first lead in a long time. Puts it up, cannot get it to go. Ned with the rebound, and Ned finally backs out of it. There were about 3 or 4 Tigers surrounding him. Shot is up outside from Cervantes, and he gets it to go. And this is a very, very loud Schreiner faithful here in Calgard, as now we have a timeout on the court. A huge start to this second half for the Schreiner Mountaineers, as Trinity has to take a timeout to sort of recollect themselves and figure out what the heck just happened.
And you talk about how deep that alley-oop was. That was maybe thrown from 3/4 court. Just a huge play. see that replay of it right there. Just speaks volumes to the chemistry that some of these guys have. Mackey letting that one fly from well beyond half court to his teammate Camden Ross, who does the rest. A huge just momentum play for the Mountaineers, and after coming to this half down 7-8 points, all of a sudden they're ahead in this ball game by 2, and we haven't even played 3 minutes yet. A huge run, 12-2 to start out this second period, and just so much energy out of the locker room. Down on the court in between halves, and some people working the table, question was how long was the energy going to maintain or be maintained for this Schreiner team? They felt like it kind of subsided as the first half came to conclusion, but now they've certainly turned it up a notch from any point that it was at in the first half. This is as high energy as we've seen them all evening.
This is the Mountaineers offense that we were kind of maybe expecting heading into this game. Schreiner in the top 35 in NCAA Division III in terms of points per game. They are a very high-scoring, very high-flying offense, and a big reason why they have the record that they have right now. As Balo passes it over to Harvey. Harvey going to drive, spins around, defended very well there by Ross as a pass back outside to Harvey, being guarded by Cervantes. Shot clock down to 4 before the shot, cannot get it to go. Rebound by Christian Rodriguez, and now coming the other way with it is Dylan Mackey. Having gotten to call Trinity, that will be the 3rd foul of the half for Trinity. However, the previous foul, which was also a shooting foul on Camden Ross, went against Jacob Millhouse, who now has 3 for the Tigers. Everybody else who does have a foul only has 1. So Millhouse not on the court at the moment, as Coach Smith electing to kind of keep him out of foul trouble, or at least attempt to keep him out of foul trouble here with a little bit under 16.5 minutes to go in the second half. A very, very sluggish start for the Tigers as Christian Green down low is going to throw it up. A lot of contact there, and Green with a pretty big grimace on his face after that foul. This one is going to go on Camden Ross, and so that is going to be his 3rd of the day. Or no, sorry, 2nd of the day for Ross. Team foul number 2 as well for Schreiner.
And if you're Trinity, I think that's the guy that you have to go directly at this point in the game. He's leading the way for Schreiner, 14 points on the evening, but you're right, 2 fouls now as Schreiner going to keep that one alive. A nice play from Mackey, who elevates and lays it in himself. Trinity felt like that one was probably going to go out of bounds from an offensive perspective. Good job by the Mountaineers to jump on that one, take advantage of some easy points. But if you have guys or the athleticism advantage, maybe in some specific matchups, specifically with Christian Green and, of course, with Braxton Berry, if you can go at him down low with those 2 guys and get some major minutes here in the second half without Camden Ross on the floor, then I think you're going to be very happy with the results.
As we get a look at the highlights from this first half, I want to remind you that this is not the only action that you will be seeing tonight. This is game number 1 of 2 that we'll be covering here on Tiger Network. The second one being the women's game between the Trinity Tigers and the Schreiner Mountaineers. Trinity 8-4 after one of the, I think that we can both agree, one of the worst road trips for this team that we have seen in a very, very long time. Went 1-3 in 4 games on the road. Could not pick up a win in their 2 games up in Tacoma, Washington, and then lost their first game against Ohio Northern in the Vegas tournament. And so they're hoping to kind of get a little bit of momentum back here to start 2024 after that really, really rough ending to the year during the holiday.
Yeah, and unfortunately for this women's squad, I think that road trip, a more difficult one at that in non-conference play. Of course, going to the D3 Classic, you're going to see some very stout competition. The trips just coincided with an unfortunate injury to Natalie Anderson, leading scorer for that squad. Having to go and play some very, very good competition without your best player, always difficult. But here, out of that timeout, Trinity unable to get the ball inbounded. 5-second violation, going to be a turnover for the Tigers. And Schreiner with an opportunity to expand on what is already a 15-2 advantage in this second period.
Schreiner leading 50-45 here with a bit under 15.5 minutes to go in this second half. Very physical play defensively there by Jacob Harvey on the defense against, as that shot is up, and that one is good. Bo Cervantes is going to get another few points. That'll make it his 11th point of the day as Green goes up, cannot get it to go. Rebound by Camden Ross. And I'm not sure if you can hear it on the broadcast, but we can definitely hear it up here. This Schreiner supporting crowd has been very, very loud all evening long. Of course, one of the benefits of playing SCAC competition, as that ball is swatted away by, I believe, Christian Green. But one of the benefits of SCAC competition, everybody very, very close together, as a fantastic play by Tanner Brown, able to lay it up and in, and he will go to the line for the and one attempt.
And that one just developing so quickly. He glided through the air. Honestly, I think is the best way of describing that. He took off so early, I didn't even think he was going to have the opportunity to get that one up to the basket, but put a lot of backspin on it, found a way to get it to fall. That's just the evening that he's having, and it's what Trinity has needed. Adds to his total. He's now at, I believe, 19 on the night. Leading the way for this Trinity side. They've needed all of it. Now they trail by 5.
He has only missed one shot so far today, 7 of 8, and 4 of those 7 coming from deep, as Trinity going to be able to get the ball back here. But going back to my previous point, these are two very familiar sides, as Tanner Brown yet again, another huge three. He now has over 22 points on the day, and he has shot and made all 5 of his 3-point attempts. He is on fire from deep so far today, as that one is laid up and in. Grant Jacobs is going to get fouled on that one. Camden Ross, the one who's going to pick that up. It will be his 3rd. And hopefully I can finally get this one out. A lot of Schreiner supporters here today. Of course, Kerrville just about half an hour up I-10. And these are two teams that are very familiar with each other, not just due to conference play, not just due to the fact that these two teams almost always play each other during conference championship games, but also due to the fact that they're actually travel partners. Because of their geographical proximity, they often go to away games together. They often play the same opponents during the same weekend. And so these are teams, coaches that are seeing each other basically every week and getting to see each other. So that's probably why we're getting such a fantastically close game. Both of these teams know each other inside and out.
Yeah, and I think you pay a little bit of extra care and attention to these teams that are at the top of the standings in your conference, especially because you're going to see them twice no matter what. And of course, as a top team, you want the best standing you can get if you're headed towards your postseason tournament. As that one is knocked home by Jalen Ned, certainly needed for this Schreiner squad. For the last couple of minutes, Trinity doing what they can, trying to get themselves back into things. And Zach Finn's 3, a little strong off the back iron. Schreiner chance to go back on another run of their own. Second of this half is exactly what they're doing. Dylan Mackey drains another one from the opposite wing. Couple of huge shots right there. Trinity continuing to play with pace right now against a team that, you're right, Caleb, certainly will scout very, very well, especially when you've had so much time over the holiday break. You've had so much time since that last conference opponent. Even if you're playing games, in the back of your mind, you're thinking about that next meaningful game. I'm sure that's been the case for both of these squads over the past month or so.
Both of these teams, of course, near the top of the conference. They've had fantastic seasons so far and will likely be playing each other again, or hopefully we'll be playing each other again. A lot of Trinity fans and players wanted to travel. It is going to remain Schreiner ball there. A lot of contact down low, but hopefully going to be able to see these two teams again during the conference championship game. And actually, in speaking with the Schreiner coaching staff, fantastic shot there by Bo Cervantes. Cervantes, very, very highly spoken of by this Schreiner team, as laid up and in is Tanner Brown, as we have a whistle for, I believe, a timeout. And yes, we do. It is a timeout. Schreiner leads 64-58. But of course, got to talk with the Schreiner coaching staff, and of course, head coach Elric Brewery, and he was talking very, very highly of Bo Cervantes. Just absolutely fantastic work so far this season. Of course, had a great tournament run last season, and then also started the year with a 9 of 17 performance from 3-point in their opening game against Howard Payne. So he has worked very hard this season, done a lot, and it's one of the reasons why he is definitely one of this one of this Mountaineers team's leaders, despite not really looking like it from the stat page. He has been a very, very big influence, not just on this game, but on this season for Schreiner.
Yeah, and he's come out on fire in this second half specifically. He's knocked down 3 of 3 from behind the arc, and that's one of the big swings that we're seeing right now. Schreiner made just 3 3-point attempts in that first half, but they've made 5 already in about 8 minutes here in the second period. It's a big reason they're out ahead in this one. 6-point advantage for the Mountaineers right now, and offense just coming from more places, it feels like. Mackey really standing out on the box score at this point. He has 16, but he also has 8 assists, 7 of 15 from the floor. He's knocked down a couple of shots from deep. He's doing everything for this Mountaineer squad, and he's doing all of it really, really well.
Both these teams tied from outside, 8 of 15 shooting percentage from deep for both squads. There's Mackey with it right now, gonna pass it down to Rodriguez. Rodriguez is gonna lay it up and lay it in. 66-58 your score here from Calgard Gymnasium. Christian Green gonna drive, gonna pass it outside to Balo. Balo not gonna be able to get the shot off there, defended very quickly by Ned. Green with it down low, pass it outside, and that is just a little bit of miscommunication there. Pass intended for Grant Jacobs, as Jacob Harvey is gonna come on now for Zach Fenn. One thing to note, Schreiner has already picked up 5 personal fouls in this second half. Mackey has 3, and also Camden Ross has 3 as well. So the 2 leading scorers for this Mountaineer squad in maybe a little bit of foul trouble, as this ball taken away by Jacob Harvey. Harvey gonna pull up outside and outside to Balo. Balo gonna go down, gonna put it up, and he's gonna put it up and in, and will go to the line for the and one opportunity.
Yeah, and hands up from the Schreiner defenders. Kind of incredulous at that call, thinking that there shouldn't have been anything, there wasn't enough contact, but really the case has been all evening. There's contact everywhere you look in this game. Balo doing everything he can and successfully finishing through that. We'll see what Trinity can do over the next handful of minutes while Camden Ross is not in this game, but he's now come back to the scorer's table as we see some more extracurricular, some fans up in the stands on their feet, and things getting really loud here in Calgard.
Mentioned earlier how players might get into a little bit of a routine, and things that flew in the first half might not fly in the second and get a few players in foul trouble. And that so far looks like exactly what we're seeing. Is that ball, Jalen Ned could not hang on to that one. But something to note, you mentioned, of course, the loudness of course, in speaking with the Schreiner coaching staff, they mentioned that this was one of the best atmospheres that they have ever been in. During last year's conference championship game, it was loud, it was packed, it was just a fantastic game overall. And these two teams always play each other close, and so it's always a great time being able to see these two teams, especially here in CalGuard, which always promotes a great atmosphere. Tanner Brown continuing to leave his mark on the day. 26 points for him so far. He is definitely the big reason why Trinity is still in this game right now. 66-63 your score with just a bit over 10 minutes to go in this second half. And I say in the second half and not this game because the way this has gone so far, overtime is not out of the question. Balo gonna pass it outside to Brown. Brown gonna shoot from 3 and gets it to go. He remains perfect on the day from outside, 6 for 6 so far, and now he is starting to get very close to threatening the program record that Jacob Harvey set just a few days ago with 9 in a single game. He has gone 6 for 6 so far from outside. Christian Green with the steal, and now coming down the other way. Schreiner has the numbers. Harvey from outside gets it to go from outside, and Trinity takes the lead 69-66.
Just swings and punches being thrown back and forth here in San Antonio. Talk about Tanner Brown knocking down his 6th, but with it, 2 records on a personal side. 3s made in a game and a career high. He now is up to 29 on the evening. Schreiner doing what they can to come back and answer. Everybody in the gym is in a battle right now. Both of these sides fully invested in getting a win here. Maybe just the beginning of January, but these squads want this victory very badly.
It may only be the first game of 2024, but both of these squads playing like it's March basketball right now. This is a fantastic atmosphere here in CalGuard Gym, and as you mentioned, a very back and forth swings and punches type of game. And right now, Tanner Brown is playing like an NBA 2K character. He has been everywhere so far today, not just on offense with those 29 points, but also on defense as well. He has been fantastic on the court so far, and again, a big reason why they lead at the moment, but just a fantastic game from him so far. Obviously, the team point leader also leads the team in terms of rebounds as well, and so far 11 of 12 shooting, has only missed 1 shot. That one down low. Of course, a lot of contact on that shot, but it has been just a fantastic day from Brown, who now has the ball and is being defended by Robertson, the sophomore out of Austin, Texas. Brown pass outside to Balo. Balo from 3 gets it to go. Dean Balo, we talked about him a lot earlier at the top of the broadcast. One of the fantastic freshmen who has kind of gone a little bit under the radar with Christian Green taking up much of the spotlight, but Balo has been so impressive, and it is going to be fantastic to watch him here in CalGuard for the next 3 or so years. They're going to call a jump ball, and this one is going to go Trinity's way. As we do have a couple of substitutions now for the Mountaineers. On come Jalen Ned and A.J. Ongst. Ongst, the sophomore out of Houston, Texas. A lot of Texas talent here for this Schreiner team. However, one thing to note, they do actually have an international player as well. I mentioned his name earlier on at the top, or not at the top of the broadcast, but during that first half. Reichert Bloom, Mateus Reichert Bloom, who is a senior, actually came out of Santa Maria, Brazil. So always good to see some unique hometowns whenever we get to look at that column on the numerical roster. But this is a very local team, which is kind of a little bit of a trend here within the SCAC. A lot of homegrown talent, and it's also something that lends itself to this familiarity. A lot of these guys played against each other in high school. course, have faced each other a lot during conference play, and that's just what makes these games so much better whenever they get close like this.
Absolutely, and talk about coaches' familiarity. When that's the case, a lot of these guys local, they get recruited by all the same schools. You have to imagine that's the case, especially here between a team in Kerrville and a team in San Antonio. Such close geographic proximity between the schools, a lot of those recruiting areas are going to overlap. It's been a wild ride in the last few minutes here in San Antonio, but Trinity pulling ahead in the last several minutes, now leading 74-68, 7.5 left here. They'll be in the bonus the rest of the way, one thing that will be important to watch. And they've only committed 3 personal fouls themselves, 6 for Schreiner, so not huge disparity there, but still creating a difference that will be worth monitoring. You know, for a long stretch, especially during that flurry several minutes ago, there were even some extracurriculars happening in the stands. A lot of energy for both these sides on the court, a lot of energy and support from both of these fan bases, but I know there's a section right across from me where it's some Trinity fans and some Schreiner fans sitting right next to each other, and I've seen some words between both of these fan bases.
It is always a great time. Getting to play Schreiner, of course, again, a very local opponent. And of course, Kerrville, again, not exactly too far away. I live out in West Texas, and so whenever I go home, I always drive home on I-10, always get to go through Kerrville, and so it's always just a fantastic time to be able to play this squad. They always play each other close, always play each other in very good games. And this game is continuing to be great. AJ Onks, a huge 3 from the corner, 71-74. And both of these offenses, we talked about them at the top of the broadcast, both of these offenses near the best in Division III, as a lot of contact down low. Finally gonna get a whistle as about 4 players go to the ground. Everybody getting up okay, it looks like, but both of these offenses near the best in NCAA Division III, and they are really showing why right now.
Yeah, and that last day, Grayson Herr with an awesome spin move to create a little bit of separation, had to hang in the air because of the help defenders. But it felt to me like whoever came over defensively slapped the backboard and had it rattling when Trinity got that second shot attempt up. Christian Green steps to the line for the 1-and-1, but the front end is no good. He's struggled a bit at the free throw line. That's something to be cognizant of down the stretch in such a close game. If you have the opportunity to maybe create some extra possessions by sending someone to the foul line, Christian Green might be the guy to mess around with.
Green has been absolutely fantastic so far this season. Of course, free throws being his only weakness, but I've been quiet for a couple seconds because I've been in contact with the control room. By the way, thank you to everybody down in the control room for making all of this possible, but just kind of looking over the stats for Tanner Brown so far, as Christian Green is going to go up and get that one. One thing to note, Brown, of course, has been fantastic so far, leads the team 29 points, but so far this game, the rest of the team has shot 19 of 43, 5 of 12 from 3, and 47 points. Compare that to Tanner Brown's 29, as well as 6 for 6 from deep and 11 of 12 overall. It just goes to show how big of a reason Tanner Brown is for leading this game at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Green with 12 and Dean Balo with 11. Certainly not minor contributions by any means, but a big discrepancy in the point totals when Tanner Brown has more than each of those guys combined.
It is definitely a career game here in Calgard for Tanner Brown. Shot is up by Balo from outside. Had to get that one off because the shot clock was down at 1, and we are going to get a whistle. Looks like Millhouse is going to be fouled. That one is going to go against Bo Cervantes, and it's going to be the first personal foul against Cervantes so far today, so far from foul trouble. However, it is the 8th team foul by this Mountaineer squad, and we mentioned, I believe it was towards the end of the first half. Both of these teams definitely do have depth to kind of throw people at the problem, but it's the people that you throw at the problem that kind of becomes the problem, because whenever you have fouls against a lot of good players like that, 4 fouls for Camden Ross, 3 of them against Dylan Mackey, 2 of them against Jalen Ned. All of those guys were starters, and all of those guys are a big reason why Schreiner's been successful so far this season. So once they kind of get into foul trouble, it really becomes a big issue, because Schreiner's bench, even though it's deep, doesn't really have a lot of big contributors. You can't look at one face on the bench and say that's going to be the guy who's kind of like our 6th man. Everybody has kind of struggled off the bench. Schreiner, and it seemed like Schreiner's been a team that has 5 starters and everybody else.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that one. You can look at the average minutes, those guys that are starting. So we're going to see an offensive foul called right there. That one going against Christian Green. That'll just be his 2nd. Much fewer names to worry about on the Trinity side when it comes to the foul problem. Jacob Millhouse is really the only one, and he's back into the game already. He has 3. But those starters that you were talking about, some of those guys that are in foul trouble, it's a group that averages mostly 30 minutes or so a game. So it's spot minutes for the rest of these guys. Right now, it's not hurting this Schreiner team all that much as Ross gets that one stripped. Millhouse, right place, right time, right under the basket, and it goes off Ross's legs. Trinity getting the ball back here. But continuing this, it was AJ Onks who we were talking about just a couple of minutes ago. I think he was into the game, his first rotation, almost 75% of the way through this matchup, and he immediately knocks down a 3. So Schreiner getting the contributions from those guys. It just depends how heavily can you lean on them, especially in closing minutes, clutch time in a game you're down 6.
It is a very, very strong starting 5, but the Schreiner bench only putting in about 20 or so of Schreiner's 84 points per game. So while they definitely do get minutes, they don't get a lot of point scoring contributions, as this shot from outside is no good. Cervantes was the one who shot it.
Yeah, he was maybe a foot too far behind the line as Christian Green coming back down the court, going right at Christian Rodriguez again. Just couldn't elevate the same way he did earlier in the game. He had a good job, or did a good job, and had a pretty successful time going at Rodriguez when he could elevate over the top. And that time, Bo Cervantes knocking one down and bringing the Mountaineers back within 3. Maybe some fatigue setting in here in San Antonio in these last couple of minutes. Both of these squads struggling to score after we saw them running, playing with so much pace for so long.
Trinity has not made a field goal in over 3 minutes. Pass out to Green, and Green slams it home. A huge play. Christian Green doing what we all know he can do so well. He has slammed it home so many times this year, adding on to his highlight reel season that really started with that Mary Hardin Baylor game with that transition dunk, but just a huge play, as now Dylan Mackey gonna get his name called out again. He continues to take over this game for the Mountaineers. 19 points on the day after that big 3, and now Schreiner with an opportunity to take the lead. Pass over and dunked in. Camden Ross, he comes in after missing a few minutes due to some foul trouble, and already just like that, under 2.5 minutes to go in this game, it has absolutely flown by. And once again, this game is tied up. We're looking at a fantastic ending to this one.
And an eerily similar finish to that SCAC championship game. It's being recreated here in CalGuard Gymnasium to start off the new year. Just another flurry from this Schreiner squad, and made three from the corner. Dylan Mackey continuing to do everything, getting to the basket, sharing it with his big man, Camden Ross, doing the rest, throwing it down with some authority. A couple of double-doubles now for this Mountaineer squad. Mackey, 19 and 11 assists. He's just orchestrated this offense all evening long, and Ross, 16 and 11 himself. Just huge performances from those guys. And Trinity going quiet in the last couple of minutes. Christian Green going to the basket a couple times. Maybe a little bit of contact there, not getting calls, not getting the roles that we want him to get. And now Schreiner, because of that, and because of those struggles, back in this game, tied at 79 all.
One of the big things that was mentioned whenever we were talking with head coach Jimmy Smith, who you can see on your screen right now, was just limiting Schreiner to second chance points, prevent the offensive rebounds. At the moment, Schreiner has 12 offensive rebounds on the day, 37 overall. Trinity has gotten 19 defensive rebounds, so they've done an okay job, but they really need to limit second chance opportunities, especially as we get into the closing seconds of this one.
It's been a remarkably similar game. Both of these teams 31 for 61 and 11 of 19. Exactly the same so far.
Tanner Brown does it again. Another huge shot from three, 7 of 7 on the day, 12 of 13 so far. He has 32 points so far during this one. Pass outside to Mackey right now, being defended by Grayson Hare. Mackey drives, puts it up, and lays it in. So now 82-81, Trinity leading by just a single point. And Tanner Brown, the man who has done it all so far today for the Trinity Tigers, with the ball right now being defended by Mackey. Brown drives down, being defended very heavily outside. Hare, shot is up, shot is no good, rims around the basket, rebound there by Camden Ross, and now Schreiner with an opportunity to take the lead. Mackey outside, pass over to Jalen Ned. Mackey now gonna move around. Pass down to Rodriguez. Rodriguez loses the ball. It's a scramble for it. Looks like it's gonna be taken in there and a jump ball called. And Tanner Brown is still down. There was a lot of contact there on the dive for the ball.
Yeah, and you're gonna see, I think, Camden Ross kind of jumping on top of Tanner Brown. Yeah. See the replay right there. Typically, you see fouls called in situations like those when you get one guy landing on top of another, but I don't think that Tanner Brown had possession yet. You can kind of see him rolling over the top of the basketball right there. So the referee's allowing that one to play on, but no one resetting the shot clock here in San Antonio. It doesn't matter. Tanner Brown with a very headsy play, trying to run something off of that lob that they set up earlier in the game, throw it over the top and have Camden Ross just tip it back to the inbounder, but Brown was prepared for that. Trinity in need of some points here to put a little bit more separation between themselves and the Mountaineers.
This crowd has once again gotten loud. Shot clock under 10. Shot is up from outside. No good, short off the rim, diving for the ball. And it is going to be out of bounds. A diving play there by Jacob Harvey to try and keep possession of the ball. As now we are going to get a substitution here, and actually we are going to get a timeout by, I believe, Trinity. Yes, it is going to be a timeout by Trinity here. So 31 seconds to go, and actually it's going to be an official review here to figure out whether or not that ball was actually out of bounds and whose possession it will be. But it'll be very difficult to tell because from the camera angle that y'all are looking at right now, that is our kind of overhead camera. We don't have the wide angle available for this game, and we don't have anybody on the sideline, so it's really going to come down to 2 camera angles, I think, for whether or not they're going to be able to tell who has possession of this one.
The referees went to the monitor very briefly, but now they're all back out on the court, so they're not huddled around checking the replay. It might be for that reason where they don't have the best angle possible. Some of the replays that you've seen at home over the course of this one, you've seen an angle from kind of underneath the basket. That would be the best bet, but you'd be relying on a camera that's attached to the basket on the opposite end of the court.
We just got confirmation from the control room. We simply don't have enough angles, and so that quick check with the table, no review ended up occurring. So 81-82 your score. Schreiner going to take over in front of the Trinity bench. Shot clock is on here, so 31.6 seconds to go in this one. So no matter what, the Tigers will get one more opportunity. Ball out to Jalen Ned. Ned going to drive, going to pass it outside, and it is taken away by Zach Fenn. And they're going to say it was out of bounds. I thought they were whistling for the foul, and we're going to see, and now they're pointing towards the Trinity side, so it is going to be Trinity ball underneath the Schreiner basket.
And this is one that I think they might review based on the fact that we have this angle you're currently watching at home. That's the angle that they'll use in the review, but frankly, I don't know if there's enough to overturn it.
They are going to the monitor, although I don't know if they didn't overturn it, who it would go to, because originally the official pointed Schreiner ball, but then he pointed Trinity ball before the review started. So if it's overturned, I'm still not sure exactly who would get it.
I think the official was correcting himself. You know, I saw him kind of touch or point to his chest. Usually when there's a correction that needs to be made, that's the signal. And the referee just went back out into the court. You can see him in the bottom left of your screen, pointed in the direction of Trinity. So you'll see it on the replay here. Obviously, Ned sticks his hand in there. Can't really tell by the spin or the trajectory of the ball if Tanner Brown happened to put a finger on it once Ned had made contact, but it really looked like it got pushed out of Tanner Brown's hand.
And so he pointed Schreiner ball. Yeah, pretty sure that he was confused at first. He pointed Schreiner ball, kind of put his hand on his chest, and then pointed Trinity. And Trinity is lining up for it to be their ball. So Millhouse is going to be the one throwing this one in here. And 19 seconds on the nose to go. A lot of contact there, and it is going to remain Trinity ball. Tanner Brown threw it off of the, I believe it was the leg there of Jalen Ned just in time.
Yeah, and one thing that's important to note, right now Trinity doesn't have a timeout. So that's a big reason things are playing out the way they are. Jacob Millhouse forced to try and get this one in bounds. The thing to watch is, does Ned's foot touch out of bounds right there before he jumps? Because he certainly makes contact with the basketball before Tanner Brown.
And the big thing is, if his foot is out of bounds and then Brown threw it off of him, then it would be Schreiner ball because he would have been an out-of-bounds player. He would have been part of the out-of-bounds area.
Yeah, based on that replay, it's a little bit too much of a mess for me to dissect, so I'll leave this one in the hands of the officials. Important, again, to note that they did signal Trinity ball. They didn't make any changes to that. I'm not sure they're going to have enough to overturn this one because of how quickly it played out, and because you can't really tell if Ned's foot landed out of bounds. Again, from that replay, I wasn't sure if Tanner Brown stepped out of bounds as part of that whole sequence. I would imagine this one stands, but they'll be poring over it at the scorer's table, probably watching it back several times, trying to piece it together. There's two of them standing with each other now. But Trinity electing to have Jacob Milhouse inbounds the ball, a little bit interesting. He's been very, very reliable at the free throw line, although he did miss one, the back end of a 1-and-1 several minutes ago. There's just a lot of guys you can go to. Tanner Brown, who's been the guy all evening. Jacob Harvey, one of your most dangerous shooters from the perimeter. Maybe suspecting that if they get the ball inbound, Schreiner's going to try and take it away, maybe induce a trap. You want to have someone there as an outlet. Jacob Milhouse, who's been equally as reliable from the free throw line, a good guy as a secondary guy to put the ball in the hands of, because if Schreiner can't get a steal off that original trap, they're almost certainly going to have to go and foul whoever touches the ball next, and in that case, it would be Milhouse.
What a fantastic game to open 2024 here on the Tiger Network. Of course, New Year's Day coming just yesterday. And I asked you before we got here, as it is going to be Trinity ball, I asked you before we got into the gym whether or not you had any sort of New Year's resolutions for this year. I believe you said that you didn't have any.
Yeah, I mean, I've been going back and forth. I'm not typically a resolution guy. I think maybe the healthiest thing for me is to try and end my fandom of the Dallas Cowboys, but I'm not sure how successful I'm going to be with that.
Ned stepped out of bounds on that play, and so it will remain Trinity ball now underneath the Trinity basket. And, of course, the Dallas Cowboys had that incredible game on Saturday night.
Yeah, just frustration and panic inducing the last several weeks is finally Trinity, who's playing in a very similar manner right now, is able to eventually get the ball inbounded, and Jacob Harvey will be the one to step to the free throw line, probably the guy you want most if you're the Tigers.
It's been a very stressful 3 days. Had the Cowboys on Saturday, then had Texas, Washington with that incredible ending last night. The 1-and-1 does not fall there for Harvey, as this game will remain a 1-point game. And now Harvey is going to foul Dylan Mackey.
That's going to be just Trinity's fourth of the second period. Actually, their fifth, excuse me. So Schreiner not in the bonus yet, but a headsy decision, choosing to trade offense and defense. Zach Finn will enter the game for Harvey. We've talked about him endlessly.
This game is incredibly similar to the one that these Tigers played over in Las Vegas against Clark. That one an 83-82 final. Of course, Tigers coming out on top. Tigers 82-81 lead at the moment. And they have gone from stressful game to kind of a little bit more of a relaxing game to now a very stressful one. Game clock under 5. Ball is up, no good. Shot is up, and it does not fall. What a fantastic conclusion to that one. The Trinity Tigers come away with an 82-81 victory here over the Schreiner Mountaineers. We talked about it all throughout the day. We talked about it before the game, and we talked about it during the game. This one would come down to who could make the final defensive stop, and Trinity was the one who did so with a fantastic final ending to this game.
Yeah, and so much happened in the last 2 or so minutes, last 3 or 4 minutes of real time in CalGuard. It's kind of difficult to process and unpack all of it. Just an interesting decision from this Mountaineer side, electing not to call a timeout at any point right there. They got the ball back, of course, and just let it play out. Trinity fouled a couple of times. Jacob Harvey came off the floor. Zach Finn replaced him. Another foul. Harvey came back on for Finn. Throughout that entire sequence, Schreiner very content to just let it play out, and then you really don't end up getting the best look in the world at the end of the game. Trinity just continuing to sink back into that zone, make them kind of distribute the ball. Uncomfortable look that falls off the iron, and then Cervantes gets another chance, and almost the same end to what we saw in last year's SCAC championship, a shot at the buzzer that comes up just a little bit short. But man, what a contest that we had on our hands here this evening. Two of the big boys in the SCAC clashing tonight, and Trinity just scraping away with a 1-point win on their home court.
It's been a couple of fantastic games here that we've got to cover on the Tiger Network. Of course, or not the most recent Trinity Tigers game, but one of the tournament games that we got to cover, of course, that went to overtime off that fantastic final shot. I believe it was Southwestern and I cannot remember, or I believe it was Southwestern and Luther, that game which went to overtime off the fantastic final second shot. So a couple of fantastic games that we have gotten to cover here on Tiger Network. And speaking of fantastic games, we're getting ready for another one here. Scheduled to tip off at about 7:30. Might go a little bit longer than that for the pregame warm-ups. The Trinity women take on the Schreiner women in another SCAC matchup. Trinity hoping to kind of rebound after a 1-3 road trip to Washington and Las Vegas. But just going over this game real quick, I know that we've talked about them a lot, but we need to talk about it again. What a fantastic night from Tanner Brown. 32 points, 12 of 13 on the day, and 7 of 7 from deep. Just a career night for him. The senior out of San Antonio, Texas, starting off 2024 on definitely the right note.
Yeah, and he's had some stellar games against this Schreiner team the past couple of years. Rights the ship after what was an unfortunate ending to this Trinity season last year. He, of course, being the Tiger that took the last second shot, trying to win a conference championship, and came up a little bit short. But he has this team on the right course to get back to that place this year and try and win a conference title en route to an NCAA tournament berth. One of the best teams in the country remains unbeaten. They've broken into the top 10 of the D3 Hoops top 25. And right now, I'm sure they're thankful. They're breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief after what was a heart attack of a finish. And they're probably setting their sights on their next games in conference play.
The Trinity did not score there in the last 2 minutes, but it was just enough there. The defense holding strong. Looking at the Schreiner Mountaineers leading scorer, Dylan Mackey, 21 points, went 9 of 18 from the field. Also had 11 assists, so a double-double for him as well. Another player with a double-double, Camden Ross, 16 points, also led the team with 13 rebounds. A fantastic effort by the Mountaineers that just came up a little bit too short there at the end.
Yeah, Mackey was so impressive today. 21 and 11. He shot 3 of 6 from deep. Cervantes with some big shots, especially out of the locker room. He hit a couple of big threes that really swung the momentum in Schreiner's favor. There was a big chunk of this game, the second half especially, where they were leading by 5, 6, 7 points, and they look to be the better basketball team. And I think that speaks volumes about Schreiner, about these Mountaineers, but also about the SCAC as a whole. These are two of the premier teams, but there's some other really good squads that each of these teams are going to match up with as the season continues.
After this one, Trinity is going to take a little road trip, head up to Colorado College. Always a tough place to play up there in Colorado Springs, not just due to the atmosphere, but also due to the environment, of course, being a very high elevation, kind of a little bit difficult for these San Antonio players to kind of manage. But then after their game against the Colorado College, they will come back home for a 4-game road stand and we will return here on Tiger Network covering the games against St. Thomas, Centenary, Southwestern, and Texas Lutheran. 4 fantastic games on the horizon for the men. But right now, all of our focus is being turned over to the Trinity Tiger women. About 20 minutes away from tip-off in that game, we will let you go get a little bit of get a little bit of a refresher and get ready for that game as we do the same. So my name is Ben Caleb Breed, joined in the booth by Luke Terry. Of course, everybody down in the control room, we thank you for all of your hard work, and everybody watching at home or wherever you are, we thank you as well for tuning in. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. But Trinity escapes 82-81, the final score here. Trinity remains undefeated. Schreiner falls to 9-6 on the season. And in about 20 minutes, we will see what the women will do here in CalGuard Gym. My name has been Caleb Breed. This has been Tiger Network, and we will see you all in just about 20 minutes. Take care, everybody.